As always, a pleasure to be joined by Frank Trigg. Frank, I haven't talked to you in a while. I have no idea where
Yeah.
you are. All I see is a white background. Where are you?
I'm actually at my place in LA right now. I have to shoot a reshoot on a movie tomorrow called Game Over Man. I think the star is either Adam Devine, the comedy guy, the short, dark-haired comedy guy. They have to do a water scene, so I'm going to be thrown in the water a couple times tomorrow down in LA Harbor.
Interesting. Well, I was kind of thinking, is Frank in Shanghai? Was he in Shanghai? Because I know you did a trip
No,
to Asia recently, but the UFC did have their event there. It went off pretty good, with the exception of when we were doing the post show. I said, I got to talk to Frank about this. There was a fight between Wang Guan and Alice Caceres that I had scored at minimum 30-27. Could have been 30-26 for Wang Guan, especially considering the first round. Caceres was dropped, and the referee had to lift him up and get him to the corner, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, it was judged a split decision, 29-28, 29-28, 28-29 for Wang Guan. And I was like, I don't know what happened here. I'm not sure if you saw it, but what are your thoughts?
so first I want to say I'm not real sure. I have to double check with John. He was overseas. Him and Elaine were on a vacation of sorts, and then they went through Europe for a little bit, and then he refed an event, ACB or ABC or something over there, and then so he's on his way back. But I got to double check with him. It is my understanding, and I could be wrong, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is if you have to help a fighter in between rounds as a referee, to help him off the floor and to get him to his corner, then if he can't get up on his own, he can't fight. So the fight should be done anyway. So that, what to me was odd, that the referee would actually help him get up and make him move. You make the move by kind of like, hey, your corner's over there, like go this way, kind of thing. But you don't like pick them up and carry him across. Like you don't do that because he's got to be able to continue on his own. If he can't continue under his own power, then the fight can't continue. So obviously that first round's a 10-8. I mean, that's an obvious 10-8. The other two rounds, Caceres lost both those other two rounds decisively. I mean, they weren't 10-8s, they were 10-9s for sure, but they weren't close. The one judge that had to go the other way. So this happens a little bit more often, and it's actually happened to me. But I switched it before I turned it in. You're going red blue. You're getting all these names thrown at you. You're not familiar with everyone's name. You're not familiar with everybody's style. You're just looking at red glove, blue glove. You're looking at the tape on their wrists. And at the end of it, you got to put your score in. And sometimes you reverse it. Like you've been doing it the wrong way. So you're like, oh, last round I gave this guy a 10 and this guy a 9. So that same guy won again. So he gets 10-9. And okay, he won again. It's 10-9. Okay, so this guy wins. But from the very first round, you flipped it. And so you're not paying attention. So sometimes that happens. I actually had to carry my card over. Usually someone comes, picks up the cards and takes them to the head table. I actually carry my over and go, look, I screwed up. I put them in the wrong order. They're flipped. Like it's the other guy won. He goes, okay, good, because now it's a unanimous decision. Otherwise, it would have been a split. So that's one thing that could have happened. That judge could have flipped it. The other thing that we could honestly look at from looking at the scorecards and watching the fight, and folks at home, we think we know what's going on. I think I know what's happening when I'm at home, but I'm drinking and I'm not paying attention and all those other things. The judge's assumption is that judge is right there, ringside, looking, paying attention. So if they didn't flip the score, and we all saw the fight kind of the same way, 30-27, 30-26, like that's what we all saw it kind of that same way, even though we're at home, that judge could just suck. It is possible that judge is just bad. I hope that's not true, because they did a UFC fight. Like, you don't want a bad judge at a UFC fight. You don't want them being on one of the spaces where these are people that this is the highest end. This is the biggest organization in the world, and somehow a bad judge slips through. So you're hoping that's not the case, but it is possible the judge could just be bad. And there are bad reps, bad judges, bad fighters, bad promoters. It's just part of the world. It's just what happens. If this one snuck through, the UFC is going to have to question their hiring practices for who they're bringing in for judging wise next time they go back to China. The third thing that could have happened is that judge could know exactly what's going on, and their view shows that Alex wins these particular fights, because you can only judge what you see. I can't see on the other side. If your back is to me the entire time and you're throwing a bunch of punches, but I don't see them land, I can't score them. I can only go off of what I see. So that view from where they were sitting K-side, that could have been what they see. So we're at home, we have the best view. The camera, the director, like Craig changes it, man. He gets to the best view. So we have the best feed at home. We have the best feed on the Jumbotron when we're in the arena looking up and we can't see what's going on in the cage. We look up. Oh, that's the best feed. We see the exact best actions. We see everything. The judges don't have that. They can't keep moving around the cage. They're stuck in one spot. So any one of those things could happen. Unfortunately, I want to lean towards they switched it. so that judge is not at fault, but it could be the judge is just bad. It just is what it is. So I feel bad for them, but it's good to be questioned. Like we have to understand that when you're in there and you're doing these fights, you have to understand that there are things that you're going to get called to task force. You better make sure you're doing it right, and if you're not, you're going to get called out for it.
Well, I'm interested to see if you feel bad for anyone in this situation. Former UFC lightweight Tang Yongbang has been sentenced to 10 months in prison after he was found guilty taking bribes regarding a fight he had with Leo Kuntz at UFC Fight Night 79. Kuntz was approached by the UFC before the fight after some crazy odds swings where about $1.7 million kind of change the odds, and that'll happen. It was apparently Bang was accepted some bribes from obviously some brokers. We'll call them brokers per se, in organized crime, whatever. But he didn't throw the fight. He actually won the fight. So it's a weird scenario because the UFC did approach Kuntz and said, listen, they went to both fighters and they said, I don't know what's going on here, but if you guys don't fight, you'll be under investigation. If someone throws this fight, you'll immediately be under investigation. So it's the first, I guess, real case where a fighter potentially took bribes from organized crime or quote unquote brokers, and now has been found guilty. I mean, I'd like to get your take on this situation. And at the same time, are you surprised it hasn't happened more in the world of the UFC?
Well, obviously, it wasn't like Conor McGregor's fight in GSP, where if you get $1.6 million on that bet coming in the last minute, it doesn't matter. Like those two huge names demand that kind of money. It makes sense. When you have two fighters that don't demand that kind of money, and all of a sudden that money comes in, it sends up flags. Like it definitely, it definitely puts it in. I'm sure. It's improbable to think that it's never happened before. In this, it just hasn't been caught before. They just got these brokers that you're talking about got stupid and let too many people know about it. And as a result, there's too many bets that came in that raised the flag up. So he gets 10 months in prison for accepting the bribes with the assumption that he's supposed to throw the fight, even though he takes the money. So now you have this kind of a weird situation where he got paid to do something he didn't do. So is he technically in trouble for throwing the fight, for conspiring to throw the fight, or is he in trouble for taking the money? So now it becomes a question of really what's he in trouble for? Like what did the final result come out to for him being in trouble? Obviously, taking bribes for anything is stupid. It makes no sense, and especially in athletic competition, like you just don't do it. It doesn't make any sense because you're gonna get caught at some point. Betting against yourself will get you caught. Trying to parlay some weird stuff with your name in it, but you're on the losing end is going to get you in trouble. Betting on yourself to win is totally fine. Like if you're betting yourself to win, Mayweather used to do it all the time. He bet a ton of money on himself to win. He bet the over/under. He bet all these other things. So, and he'd make extra money on it because that's just what he was a gambler. This is what he does. A lot of fighters do that. I did that when I was fighting. I would gamble on myself every time. I would put myself out to win. And sometimes I hit the bet, and sometimes I didn't. Just how it goes. But to take bribes to throw a fight is just ridiculous. The 10 months in jail for something like this. What jurisdiction do you know was this actually in? Where did they actually do the case? It's in South Korea. So 10 months in a South Korea prison is pretty bad. That sucks. Like the South Korean prisons are not fun. They're not. There's no gyms. There's no basketball courts. There's no weight room. Like you're stuck. My understanding is it's 23 hours of lockdown in your cell by yourself, and you have an hour out in a grassy knoll to go walk around a little bit. That's it. Otherwise, you're just in that thing for 10 months. It's gonna blow for this kid. It's dumb, man. Like that doesn't make it makes no sense to try to bribe yourself or accept bribes for something like this. It just really is just a stupid case of idiocy. And he should get 10 months. Like he should be put in prison for it. But hopefully this is gonna be one of those things now where it's gonna stop the brokers from coming and asking fighters to do it, one. And two, it always seems to happen in Asian countries. I've noticed when this stuff goes down, it's always in Asian countries. It never really happens in America. You don't hear about some American kid, taking a bribe to get blown out. It's always in these super high. And from a gambling standpoint, the Asian market gambles quite a bit. Like they're huge gamblers over this. It's part of the culture of every country over there. They all gamble. It's just what they do. The Thai fights, if you go to a live Thai fights in Thailand, they're betting, by the round. They're betting by the round. They're betting by the strike. They're betting like they're just the guys out there are just fistfuls of money, just taking money and giving money back and forth because they're just constantly betting. So these kind of things always happen, and it's going to get quelled down. Like the UFC is obviously on top of it because it deletes the brand. It makes the brand look really bad if you got guys taking bets like that and taking bribes. So they're definitely going to be on top of it. They're definitely going to be looking at it, making sure it doesn't happen again.
Speaking of things that shouldn't happen again, I haven't had a chance to talk to you on record regarding Conor McGregor, Mark Goddard, that whole situation that happened overseas in Ireland. And I thought to myself, well, what if Frank was the ref? Because I'm looking at Mark Goddard. I don't know if you had a chance to speak with Mark Goddard yet, but Mark Goddard is handling it as professionally as a human being can possibly handle it. But again, you are a man. You are a human being, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you get pushed, there's a natural reaction. There's a fight or flight. Okay, you're not going to go into the turtle position. It's fight or flight. So Goddard kept himself quite professional. But then I thought to myself, well, what if that was Trigg? I don't know if Trigg would be able to handle himself in that manner. Would Trigg have done something? So I know it's a big what if. But what if that was you in there, and you had a fighter that was down like that, and Conor McGregor jumps the cage and starts celebrating with Ward? Like, I mean, it was crazy.
I was working an event maybe 2 months ago, and Jason Herzog was the lead referee. So he's the head guy, most experienced ref of the group. Two fighters were getting out of control. They weren't stopped. They were going a little bit longer on the stops. They were getting super aggressive. They were pushing each other off on the breaks. Like, it was getting really bad going in the third round. And then it happens again. I warned them between first and second. I warned them between second and third. And they did it again right in the beginning of the third. Like, they got after again. So I had to like put my hand on, these are two heavyweights. They're like 6'4", 6'5". I'm obviously short of stature compared to those guys. I'm 5'10". So I had to push the one guy back on his chest, and I shove him back, and my hand slides up, by his throat. And I'm like, look, you got to stop. I'm taking, you got to cut this out. I'm going to disqualify you. And you are winning this fight right now. You're going to lose this belt if you continue this. So I get reprimanded afterwards because the visual aspect is me. My hand slides up to his throat. Looks like I'm trying to choke him. When I'm just trying to push him, he's sweating, and I'm so short. My hand slides up. So I get reprimanded for being too aggressive and having a bad optics, right? So there is no way that I would have been as calm as Goddard in that same position. No way. Because now my whole mindset, when I was watching it happen live, I was like, Goddard now is being pushed over, the knocked out fighter he's trying to check on before the doctors can get in, and counter pushes him over this fighter. So now I'm trying to help the fighter I'm supposed to be in there for, because the referee's there for fighter safety. Now this fighter is unconscious. We have to take care of him until the doctors can get into the cage to give him his analysis to find out, is he concussed? Is he an orbital bone broken? Is a jaw broken? Like, whatever the case may be. And I get pushed over the top of this guy. Now I got to save him. You got to turn and take care of that problem. Like, now I have a problem. I can't protect this fighter because of this other guy. So let's imagine that it's Paul Harris and Jake Shields. And he's got the Kimura on, or the knee bar on, and he just keeps cranking it. And I wave it off, wave the fight off, but he goes another 12 inches after I've already stopped it. At that point, we tell you in the pre-fight, when we say stop. If you don't, you're not going to like the way we're going to stop it. You are not, because now we're talking about fighter safety again. So now it's like hand on the face. You poke a guy in the throat. You got to get the arm back around. To get the knee bent again so it's not broken. So we have to sometimes, guys, it's heat of the moment. Guys are happy about to get the submission. You've got to go to a position where you're like, okay, I got to stop this. I got to get this stopped and save this guy from getting hurt any worse. But I also can't do any damage to the guy beneath me. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm turning around, and it's a guy that's not supposed to be in the cage, that's not supposed to be fighting, that's not anywhere around. He's not supposed to be here at all. The cage door's not open. How he got in, I don't know. Whatever happened, he's not the doc. He's not the other fighter, and now he's pushing me over. What do? Mark is that's the way I hope I would handle it, is the way Mark did. That's what I would hope would happen, is the way Mark did it. But I can honestly tell you that I immediately would be worrying about this fighter. I'd have to take an aggressive stance over the top of him and keep separation. Conor didn't attack anymore. He pushed and then pointed and gruffed and got grabbed by security, whatever. So he got pulled away. But you absolutely have to watch what's going to happen and how things are going to go down, because it could be a situation where that fighter gets hurt worse. Because now there's a melee. Now we're fighting on top of him. You have to be real cautious. Goddard is a true gentleman. We disagree on a lot of things, but what he did there was absolutely above bar. Like, you couldn't ask for a better way. And thankfully it was him in there doing it, and not some minor, not a newer ref that wouldn't know how to do it, because Mark handled it great. I mean, he handled it perfectly in my mind. You think they're going
to throw the book at Conor, or is it just because it's Conor he's going to get a slap on the wrist?
It's tough, man, because ultimately the commissions are around to make money. I mean, ultimately the commissions are supposed to make money. That's what they're supposed to do. Conor McGregor is a moneymaker. So say they pull him out. They came out and said they pulled him out of the December 30th fight in Las Vegas. It's not true. He wasn't on that card. It wasn't happening. It's just that rumor came out, and John Kavanaugh came out right away. He's like, "Oh, he can't pull us off the card. We're not even on. Like, we're not doing it." So but him not fighting. Let's just say, for example, he was on that card and he got pulled. It's a lot of money coming in because McGregor demands a lot of money. That's a lot more pay-per-view. It's a lot more seats, a lot more beer sales, a lot more pizza sales, a lot more popcorn sold in the arena. It's a big amount of money when Conor fights. Say now he goes to California. Let's say he fights in February in California. Now he gets pulled off that card. Well, now California's losing money. So the commissions are all about trying to make as much money as possible. It's what they have to do. They're government entities. Unfortunately, with someone as big named as Conor, it can only go one of two ways. It's going to be a slap on the wrist, or you're going to have to legitimately throw the book at it and make a point and go like, look, no one's above this whole mess. The head commissioner that was for Bellator that night, Mazzulli. So Mazzulli has a problem because Conor's not licensed by him. Or licensed, or there's no licensing with him. So he's not corner licensed, he's not fighter licensed, so he can't do anything. He actually has to go to the UFC to do something. And then the other commissions have to follow. So it's not even going to be the commissions that are doing it. It's going to have to be like the UFC, and then everyone else is just going to follow suit and go, okay, yeah, he's suspended for 9 months, 10 months, like whatever the suspension is, or whatever the fine is, or whatever it is, My feeling, getting off the fence, my feeling is it's going to be a slap on the wrist because he's such a huge star, and there's no way around it. He is a huge star.
Well, speaking of stars, two of them I want to talk to you about, George St. Pierre and Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping competed, 3 weeks after losing the title to George St. Pierre, then gets knocked out. So the question's obviously afterwards, hindsight's 2020, should he have been allowed to fight? Number two, should he retire? Number three, should he just fight in March and go out the way he wants to go out in England?
He wants to go out in England. He's going to wait and fight and go in March and go out and retire in England. I know I'm pretty positive that he wanted to get out after he lost to St. Pierre, that he wanted to stop. And then train camp, getting ready for Gastelum sucked. It was too short. He wasn't in the rhythm, wasn't in the pattern. Body still beat up from the original fight. Should he have fought? Yeah. I mean, he got cleared by the doc. There's no concussions. He got choked unconscious, which doesn't cause a concussion. It's easy to recover from. It wasn't like he tapped out the arm bar, or tapped out the knee bar, or something like that, or a Kimura where you got, something gets twisted over. He got choked out, and that's that happens all the time in practice. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't that big of a deal when you're dealing with professionals. So yeah, he was fine to fight. He wasn't recovered to fight a guy like Gastelum. He just wasn't ready for that kind of step up. But he's a warrior, man. That you can't say enough good things about Bisping because he went after and fought it. But I would like to see him go out on his own, like go out the way he wants to go out, as fighting in London, fighting in front of his home crowd, and calling it a day. Unfortunately, he's a former champ. He's a main event fighter. If he's not main event, he's co-main event. If there's a title fight ahead of him, then you have to give him a co-main event or main event fighter to fight. You can't give him a tomato can, and he kind of needs a tomato can right now to get through his retirement. If he wants to go out on a victory, if he really wants to go out as a true star, then he's going to fight one of the up and coming guys or one of the better guys in the top 5 and call it a night. But he probably will not be able to win. I mean, it's unfortunate for Mike, but he peaked at the right time, won at the right time, slid his way through at the right time, and now he's got to move on to something else.
They're saying either Machida or Belfort. He wants Belfort. Dan Hardy saying, I'd like to see the Machida fight. I agree with both fights. What do you think?
I don't want to see Machida. Machida's lost it, man. That suspension killed him. You saw how bad he was when he came out. He got starched. Like, there's no reason. Belfort still got some juice in him. He still got some game in him. He'll fight back a little bit. It'd be a great striking game. It's right in Bisping's wheelhouse. Machida, honestly, Bisping, I think right now, if the Machida comes out that we saw last time, Bisping beats him in 1 round. And it's not really competitive, so I don't really want to see Mike go on a competitive way. Him with Belfort would be competitive, but he still smashes him up.
In terms of George St. Pierre, that looked like I heard some bad things about the camp. Number one, trying to put on the weight scientifically. That failed pretty bad, apparently. But he looked much bigger, obviously. It looked like he wasn't able to carry that weight. And come the second round, he looked winded. He was able to pull off the victory, but he looked winded. Your thoughts?
Bisping was winning that fight, so he got caught. Bisping was smashing him up. He beat him up from the bottom. Like, he cut him wide open from the bottom. He won that round from the bottom. Bisping won the round from the bottom. How often do we say that? He won that round from the bottom. Now put in George St. Pierre. You're like, he beat George St. Pierre from the bottom. George is an amazing top guy. Like, this guy is incredible on top when he gets on top of you. It's a little unsettling to realize how much Bisping beat him up from the bottom. Then you look at the overall factor. Okay, just take the fight. Don't think about training camp. Don't think about him being out for the 4 years. Just look at the fight as the fight progressed. He kept getting thicker and thicker and thicker as the blood got pumped into his shoulders and his arms. And all of a sudden his punches were shorter and shorter because he couldn't get full extensions because biceps and triceps were starting to get full of lactic acid. He was completely gassed going into the third round. Completely gassed. If Bisping didn't get caught, he could have pushed the pace and would have started to take over, would have really taken over on George. We would have had to start shooting and getting beat up on his feet because Bisping was starting to turn the tide. But typical GSP fashion, man, he finds a way. He knows really smart cage awareness, understands how the game is played, and almost could have thrown that punch blindly. Like, could have closed his eyes and just stood there and waited for it to happen to throw it because it was going to land no matter what happened because the way Bisping was holding his hands and George knew it. And he hit him right on the button right at the right time to put him down, and was able to take his back. Unfortunately, GSP's in a weird spot. The UFC said if he wins the belt, he's got to defend the belt up there. Of course, he can always retire again and walk away from the sport, or not retire and just, whatever he wants to do and give up the belt. But they're going to kind of hold him to it. So he's going to have to fight Whitaker. Now, that's a bad matchup. But I said Bisping was a bad matchup. I said Bisping, everything was set up for Bisping to crush him, to absolutely smash this fool. And it didn't work out that way. So I'm saying the same thing with Whitaker. And Whitaker's a better striker. He's bigger. He's faster. He's younger. Hasn't been in as many wars as Bisping was. So Whitaker's a way better opponent, but with Bisping's kind of style, kind of mindset. And George is going to get smashed up by him, I believe. I really do think he's going to get smashed up by him. But I said about Bisping, and it's GSP, man. Anything can happen. I would not surprise me if he fights Whitaker to honor his agreement to defend the title, and then vacate and go down to 170, and then try to get a hold of Woodley or somebody, whoever the champ is at that time. I think it'll still be Woodley at that time because I know they're having problems trying to get him a fight right now.
Yeah, that Diaz fight probably not going to happen.
I know it's unfortunate, but that fight would be epic. I'd love to watch that fight because you can't taunt Tyron. You can't taunt him. He won't fall for it. He doesn't get baited. We try to taunt him when we wrestle against him. We try to taunt him. He just won't get baited. He will not fall into it. He sticks with his game plan, sticks with his speed, sticks with his power. He does his game right. But it's interesting to see. It's Diaz, man. Like, those fools know how to taunt you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you get caught. I mean, they can make fun of me at a club. Like, and we're boys, like, we're hanging out together, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, I'm gonna get you. Like, I want to get him in the club. I can't imagine being in a fight. Well, I'm like, okay, I got to get this fool, and he's just like, what? Come over here, and all of a sudden, slap. Like, but I couldn't stop it. What do I do now? Like, I got to kind of take it. So that fight's really interesting, but man, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad this happened, Frank. Appreciate your time. I know you're always traveling and your schedule's always busy, but definitely thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, bud.